Good afternoon and good morning, everyone. It's Don Black here from Cavell. Really excited to take you through our webinar today. If you guys want to hold tight for a couple more minutes, we're just onboarding a few more people who are coming along. So please sit tight and we'll get started in probably 2 minutes time. Thank you all. I hope you're all having a great day wherever you are in the world. I can see lots of different people from lots of different countries. So, yeah, good to have you all here. So I'm just going to share my slides and get ready to get started. Has that worked okay? Finbar, is that working from my side?
Yeah, everything is good.
Fantastic. Right, we'll get started. I'm just going to hit record already. Fantastic. So, as I said, I'm Donald Black. I'm Director of Research Services at Cavell. We're going to take you through a little bit of our channel research. We've been looking at the channel in more and more detail. It's been a growing issue and growing area of interest for a lot of our service providers and a lot of our vendor customers of how the channel is changing. What are they looking for? What are the channel looking for to differentiate? And what can vendors do to really grow their sales through the channel? How can they find new partners, etc., going through that? So I thought I'd kick us off with a little bit of insight into how the channel looks at the moment and what we're seeing some of the key themes emerging. Number one is the rise of the converged MSP. What we saw previously was a number of service providers, a number of resellers targeting one customer segment in terms of one key product area. What we're starting to see now is these converged MSPs growing, being driven by technology conversion to corresponding enterprise requirements to have one single provider for multiple different services. With new services coming in like cloud services, not just cloud communications, AI, customer experience, we believe that a lot of these customers are looking for one service provider to look at, and some of our research points to, I think it's for every single customer size segment, around 60 to 70% of all enterprises and SMBs want to go for one provider to offer all services for them. And for these service providers, the MSPs, they're focused on customer service. Customer service is critical to what they're doing. They're providing the service wrap to support this. They're not only selling customer service solutions, but also one of their key differentiators is the customer service and the wraparound that they provide around that. They're also looking for best of breed technologies. So it's quicker and easier for them to now adopt new technologies and bring new technologies to their portfolio. And they're really interested in, well, where can we find the best products? Where can we look at them? And they're looking to go out to work with those best vendors in the space. We're also seeing them from a different technology focus. So we're seeing some MSPs emerge from who were initially selling IT services, now looking at moving to security, network, or communications. We're seeing communications providers moving into the IT space. We're seeing security providers look at what other services are going to sell, mainly around the network and things like that. So definitely seeing this converged space move out from different areas. And one of the challenges that they face then is, what skills do we need to be able to do that? That's why we've seen a lot of acquisitions in the MSP space, but it's also an area where we're seeing a lot of people moving and building up specific product teams and sales specializations within these different companies. And the partners are facing different challenges in terms of complexity to deliver. If we look at some of the kind of core products from a communication standpoint that they face, if we look at connectivity, it's simple, it's easy to sell, it's pretty low margin, but a lot of the resellers that we speak to have multiple providers. Business mobile becomes a little bit more complicated. There's margin opportunities with mobile device management. A lot of the mobile carriers dominate around this. And again, partners are having multiple suppliers to sell this. Once we start moving down that chain a little bit more, we look at UCaaS services. A lot of the MSPs we're looking at are obviously selling UCaaS at the moment. But once moving to that CX, AI, customer experience, CCaaS world, security, the products become more and more complicated. A lot of the partners we look at aren't selling these solutions at the moment. And a lot of the partners are leaning on their vendors or service providers to offer a kind of whole solution life cycle to all of those as well. And what this means is then for these partners is their strategies are changing. They're looking at what they can do in the future to differentiate in terms of new products, but also in terms of new areas that they can focus on. When we launched our service provider survey early this year, one of the key strategic initiatives that service providers are looking to do to differentiate is launching into new geographic territories. A lot are looking at focusing on those online and digital sales, trying to serve that real SMB small end of the market. A lot of them are looking at targeting new business demographics as well. And last but not least, we're looking at new vertical segmentation. And I think for a lot of the service providers, they're relying on partners to help them launch into new geographic markets. They're relying on partners to help address new vertical segmentation as well as we go through. So when we look at the international side, again, speaking to the service providers, 77% of those sell internationally, and 70% of those who sell internationally are looking at expanding into new markets. But when they're expanding into new markets, they're looking at, well, how do we understand that market landscape? Do we have the language and local presence in that country to be successful through there? Do we know the regulations and do we know the channel nuances of how we're going to sell to these people? What are the buying habits of the enterprises as well that we're trying to sell to? How do we do that? And that's where the channel is so important, and trying to find those channel partners who can solve all of those for you. They know the regulation because they've been operating there. They have local presence and language capabilities in-house who can do that. They can do sales support. They can do customer support in the long run as well. And they understand the market landscape. So partners are really a big enabler for going international because they're helping through this. We also see from a vertical standpoint that a lot of partners are the ones who are going to enable service providers to go more vertical through building specific vertical integrations, but also by having specialization that's selling into those. Only 23% of the service providers we spoke to had specific vertical sales teams to go and do this. They're relying on partners to go and sell and finding specialist partners to go and sell to different verticals. The graph on the left-hand side is what specific products and solutions that the service providers have built to really enable that verticalization. As you can see, it's a lot of the more regulated industries that people are building. So yeah, just over 60% of the service providers have built something specific for healthcare, done some integrations through on that. Finance and banking, we see a lot of service providers building more compliance solutions to go after that. Public sector and government, building teams to go after those segments by really integrating into the sales portals that the government sells through. Education, again, is a key one that they're building specific teams around specific products through that. When it's interesting looking at our enterprise study, 18% of large organizations above 250 employees see buying services with specific integrations to the vertical applications as one of their top 3 buying criteria. This is also backed by looking, those organizations are looking at reviews in that vertical segment for evidence of that success. As we said, 64% of the respondents said they do offer vertical sales teams, but we're seeing more and more specialization in that MSP space where teams are focusing on specific verticals. And I think that's where we're seeing a lot of the space coming through. And for those partners out there, 44% of the providers seeing reductions in ARPU and average margin per user as well. It's becoming increasingly competitive landscapes on that. We're seeing transition to third-party communications platform, which is again eroding margins. We're seeing in those developed markets like US, UK, Nordic markets, Netherlands to some extent, that higher penetration rates are of cloud communications, meaning those developed markets are reaching high penetration and getting harder and harder to sell. And we're seeing a commoditization of unified communication solutions. So this is making it more and more challenging for those partners to drive revenue, drive margin, and they're looking for opportunities to how they can transform themselves by bringing new products into their portfolio and what can they do around that. So the issue for those channel partners is, do they have the ability to transform themselves? They're looking at who can manage those integrations, or do those channel partners have to do them themselves? And they're looking for someone who can provide the advice and skills and how they monetize that as well. There's also looking at role around mobility. We're really interested in how the mobility market is evolving, and a lot of the channel partners are looking at how that's going to evolve from there. So what does this mean for suppliers into the channel? Obviously, all these channel partners in the industry is going through a lot of change at the moment, but a lot of the vendors we speak to and a lot of the service providers we speak to who are selling through the channel expect that sales will increase over the next 12 months through that. 44% said they're going to increase for agents, 46% said they're going to increase through the reseller channel. And we see this, that a lot of focus around channel is the core way that people are going to grow. Speaking to all the major vendors out there, they are very partner focused. They no longer want to sell direct. So we're seeing more and more focus on the channel and understanding how we can get it into the channel. Where do we find the right partners to go and sell to? How do we really enable them to go forward? And one of the challenges for suppliers of finding new partners is all the areas that they traditionally look at probably don't deliver the value that they want. We see a lot of suppliers supporting channel events and trying to find people through there, but you can't guarantee the attendee quality is going to be good. The costs are high for sponsorship. It's hard to gather the leads, and you're hoping that someone walks past your booth and goes, right, they're the right person to speak to. We also see vendor lists, so you can go to Microsoft's website, find their vendor list, partner list. You can go to Cisco's website and find their partner list, but we've done a lot of that work. Most of those lists are out of date. Vendors have been pretty slow to update them. They don't remove partners when they're not selling that product, and they end up just listing everyone who's ever sold a product through there. We also then see list providers, people just selling lists and going, well, here's a list. They're pretty out of date. They're obsolete pretty regularly. They don't offer any flexibility because they're exactly what you get from it. And there's no opportunity to go, well, actually, we're really interested in this area. If they don't cover that, they do that. We see people going down the manual searches, searching for where do we find channel partners or find more channel partners. It takes a long time. It's very intense. It takes a huge amount of effort to go and do that. And it's very difficult to update regularly. The final option is leveraging those existing channel manager relationships. Obviously, you're hoping that bring in a new channel manager, they're going to have a little black book of contacts who they can go out to, but it's difficult to scale, and hiring the right people to do this can be risky. So what we've done is try to solve that. So we're really asking those questions. What do your best partners look like? What services and other vendors do they support? How do you find partners if the vendor doesn't publish their list? There's a lot of vendors out there who don't publish their list of partners at all. And one of the big questions is, how do you go after them? How do you look at what services are sold, what services are sold together, how do they overlap, and where do the regions provide the best targets for expansion? So we launched Channel Insights last year, and we've just revamped the whole platform now. Sorry, I'm just going to quick glass of water. So we started this from a project which we did for a vendor where they came to us and said, we've got 1,000 channel partners. We know what a good partner looks like because we get the billing data through, but we're really relying on our account managers to keep that data up to date. So they gave us the list of partners and said, can you go out and find out exactly what they're selling and what vendors they have in their portfolio? And there was some really interesting stuff that came out of this. 22% of the partners that they had listed don't mention anything about them on their websites. They don't actually say that they sell their products. A lot of them were selling competitor products. We identified a huge number of partners who had been acquired and part of a larger group, and we identified all of their key competitors in different accounts in different regions, which was hugely valuable for them to go forward. We sat there with this list of 1,000 partners and went, well, how do we grow this? How do we leverage this? How do we use new techniques to bring this data in there? And what we've been able to do is build our Channel Insight service, where we've got about 84,000 partners globally. In English-speaking countries, it's around 54,000 partners. We launched this, as you can see on the left-hand side, which is our initial dashboard last year, and brought us some great customers who got some great value out of it. We've just launched Channel Insights V2 today, so all of our old customers have moved across to that now. And I'm going to hand over to Finbar very quickly to do a quick demo of what we've built and how we can how that's working. So over to you, Finbar.
Brilliant. Thank you, Dom. So what you're seeing in front of you is the homepage of our new tool, and you saw a little screenshot of the tool in general. This is going to bring you into the portal with all the sort of latest login features, all that kind of stuff to get you logged in securely. And then what you're going to see in front of you is a place that we're going to update quite frequently with new widgets and tools that's going to bring you information on how the data is changing and how the data is being updated. And a good example of that we're launching with the system today is what's happening, what's new in the tracker on that, which is bringing in LinkedIn updates from any company that is in your partner database. So you'll see I have a lot in lots of different languages because we have those websites tracked. But if you've got access to English-speaking countries or UK, the UK, for example, it will load in those examples here of what people are posting about when we do a scrape for an update. You can also save a list of favorites. You see I've got CoreLogic here as a bit of a demonstrator, and it will just show you what's been scraped from their website the last time it was looked at and what they're talking about on their social media channels. But the core of the platform is the insights page. And as Don mentioned, you can see loading in all of these records in there. People who did use the old platform will be kind of familiar with how this works, but there are a few new features, so please do pay attention. The first thing you'll notice is that I can hit this very handy box and I can just load up some lists that I've saved, which have pre-agreed searches. And the first one we've got here is, of course, just a list of English-speaking countries. So you can see we've got that 37,000 records there of English-speaking countries, and it will give you a breakdown of the sort of vendors that we found in our database, what services they offer, what keywords are coming up on their websites, and sort of industries they serve, as well as a full list of countries along with their location and website links and things like that. But let's just give a few examples because we can drill down a bit deeper. So if we start looking, for example, we want to look at Amazon, we go to the vendor dropdown, we'll hit tell me everyone who's works at Amazon within these countries, and you'll see instantly all the partners that work with Amazon come up and the list gets a lot smaller, allowing you to narrow down what you want. Then if, for example, if you want to see, okay, tell me who sells Amazon and Cisco, you'll add in Cisco there and you'll get a much smaller list as well, narrowing down again to specifically those companies who are selling both. Additionally, one of the new updates on the new platform is the ability to just easily say, tell me who doesn't do this as well. So you want to say everyone who sells Amazon and Cisco, not those people selling Salesforce. You can take away Salesforce. Now, what this really allows you to do is to drill down into exactly the sort of data you need on the partners who are going to be the best fit for you. So we talked earlier in the presentation about identifying the best partners. Now, if you know you compete well with Amazon and Cisco, this is the list for you. If you know you lose every single new channel partner acquisition when another company's involved, you can just take them off the list and narrow things down. You can then start to add in things like services. So you want to take a look at, we'll say, all the Cisco partners, and let's see how many of them are selling CCaaS in the English-speaking countries. And you see it's going to load up, and we're going to have a lot of data. Sometimes if you do a big query on something like Cisco, it will take a little bit of time. We just reset it, and we'll just go straight back in. But it loads that data, and it is very good. So okay, so then let's just move on with this demo. Sorry about that. As is noted, the one time you're going to demo something, it will start to slow down. So when we're demoing, so if we want to narrow down, so for example, I want to look at large Amazon providers, right? And I want to get a bit more detail and go into them in a bit more detail. So you see I've selected Amazon as my vendor. I've selected company sizes, 500 plus employees, 200 plus employees. I want to know who the big ones are. So then I'm going to go down and I'm going to say, okay, I've got a really good list here. Tell me a bit more about them. And if I click, say, Axions, for example, you'll be taken down to a profile at the bottom of the page, which is going to give you a lot more detail beyond just the overarching search of exactly what Axions is doing. So you can see their headquarters, you can see the type of company they are, how many employees they have on their LinkedIn page, and then how big they say their company is. We pull a lot of data in from LinkedIn, so we have that as a source of data. We also go to all the websites, scrape them for the text, and using keywords and things like that, search through the website to see what they're talking about on that website as well. And combining those two gives us a really good view of each company and what they're doing. So you can see here as one example, what they say about themselves, definition of the company, what vendors they support, what services they offer down here, and what keywords are tied to which services. And then you can also see a bit of a breakdown of what products they say they're selling, what industries they're targeting, their specialities, their target customers, usually by industry down here. So you can see that they're saying they target banking and insurance, that kind of thing. Similar companies, in this case, it's a lot of their partner companies, but you'll also see some competing companies and investors in there, as well as mission statements and stuff like that comes up. So you can get a bit more of a deep dive into those partners, and you'll see there's a few more good examples, but you can see a lot of rich data on a lot of these companies coming through there. So that is essentially the core of the platform. And I think one of the things that Dom and I are excited just to talk about is just sort of how much we are planning to grow this platform. One of the reasons that we built this version 2 is so that we can build and expand on this. It's a much more modular approach. The data is getting much, much richer in the background. So what we showed you now is just really the start of our journey and refining the data, adding more sources of data, adding more ways of looking at it. It really is our next step. Dom, do you want to jump back in and just talk about the next feature that's coming along?
Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much, Finbar. So one of the new features we're bringing in, which will be live in a couple of weeks, is the ability to upload lists. So when we first launched this last year, we had an audit function, which was a kind of side project of how to do audits, which we would do audits for different companies. What we've done now is the ability to anyone to upload list of partners into this. So if you go to an event, if you come across a list of partners, you can automatically upload this into your platform, and it will automatically pull all the data from all the public sources that we're pulling from and build profiles for each of those partners, which we can then sort, add, change, etc., export that list, and do what you want with it. So we're seeing customers come to us and say, well, look, we turned up to a partner event, we've got the list of all the partners coming, can we segment that really quickly so when we know when we're speaking to these customers exactly what they're doing, we have that intelligence in our hands already. So that's adding a lot of value through on that. We've got a new admin portal as well coming into this as well, which will allow you to do your administration and add, change users. And the way that we're structuring this in terms of pricing, which is what everyone always asks, is it's sold on a country by country basis. So if you're looking at trying to understand more about the market operating in already, looking at finding partners there, we can certainly help with that. And also, if you're looking at new countries and moving into new markets, we can help you really understand what the channel makeup of that is going from there. If you have a large channel base yourself, we can run an audit of that where you just go and upload your list of all your partners, and it would automatically run an audit to show, well, which of those partners aren't selling your products, which of them are selling competitive products, and really bring some good insights through on that as well. So we're really excited that we've launched this. We've got a lot of our customers saying this is really helpful and really great to what we're doing. And we'd love to help support any of you on the call and any of your customers understand and help them grow into the channel as well. So I'd like to say thank you everyone for attending and joining us today. I hope you found it useful. We'll be sending the slides out to all of you afterwards, but if anyone's got any questions or would like to dive into the service a bit deeper and work out how we can help, please get in touch. And we can see what we can go from there. So thank you all for joining us today. I hope you all have a good rest of the day and speak to you all soon. Thanks, everyone.